You know it's this. Take a perk and a talk of that shit. Money swallowing like sis. Did it perfect in the kid. Got a billion who sang on my head. Look up better put on the road I just spent. I know we got $1 million. The devil that shit ain't not cheaper again.
Hello and welcome back, fellow anime lovers, to MangaMuse. I am delighted to have you join us once again in the world of fanfiction and fantasy. This is the third part of What If Deku and Hero Academia Enters Miraculous, Tales of Ladybug and Cat Noir. Special note, this fanfic is written and a masterpiece of Bola 8 on FANFICTIONnet. Do check and support the author too. Now smash the like, share and subscribe button for more. Also press the bell icon so that you never miss such great parts. Thanks for the introduction. Now let's dive into the world. Not bad for a first patrol. If Ninth hadn't been toweling his hair, he would have shot Seventh a glare. That was a disaster. Was it? Fifth started to count on his finger. He showed Red Girl the ropes, at least enough so she doesn't break her hand trying to throw a punch. You stopped some bozos with guns. Oh, and let's not forget that you finally stopped steaming on your angst and talked to someone for a change. Ninth threw the towel on a basket in the corner of his room. He wouldn't dignify that with a response. Let's save the fighting for later. Now, it's time for some cheese. Plague, with his eldritch cat god priorities, raided the mini fridge that Ninth had stocked full of his favorite foods. Namely, cheese. Speaking of. Ninth left his room and marched to the kitchen. The Agresti mansion was harrowing empty at the best of times but in the middle of the night. The moonlit corridors with their tall windows and long shadows were a prime location to shoot a horror movie. Even then, Ninth felt comfortable slipping into the dark and moving soundlessly through the long halls. No one to see him, no eyes seeing a face he felt wasn't his, no expectations in eyes watching his every movement. Sometimes, disappearing for a moment or two to simply exist did him good. The kitchens were empty like the rest of the mansion, staff paid extra to be punctual and exit the premises of the Agresti property on time. Ninth gazed at the space, big enough to supply a restaurant, with quiet loathing. They didn't need it. Even back in his last life, when his old school turned into a boarding one thanks to all the incidents and public unrest, Ninth's classes building had a kitchen half the size to attend to 20 people. It was crumpled, at the best of times, but Ninth would take that at the enormous waste before him. It served 3 people, some days. Most of the time, none. Ninth squashed the clamp in his chest, the sting in his eyes, and the memories of an old and cramped apartment that was more of a home than anywhere else would ever be. He saved that home. That was enough. Without turning on the lights, Ninth went in and started pulling pots and pans. The light of the stoves was honestly more than he needed, with the way his eyes still had a residual glow from all the Quirk overuse. He pushed away the annoyance with himself for needing to go so far for what was objectively small fry, normal criminals with normal guns, that he could and should have taken care of without a hitch. Ninth was rusty, and that angered him to no end. With a plate of rice, fried eggs, and medium-cooked beef in hands, Ninth left the dark kitchens behind and once more stalked in the dark in the direction of the mansion's heart. "That's sweet of you." He ignored Seventh's comment and pushed the only door which light escaped from in the mansion open. The person inside it got startled, the supremely subtle tremble of his hand the only indication of it. The tall man, obviously more than 2 meters from just a glance, put down his sewing needle. Turning from the mannequin outfitted with the precursor of a dark purple dress that was a shade away from black, green eyes darker than Ninth's met his bright ones. "Adrian, what are you doing up at this hour?" The man adjusted his glasses to hide how he subtly checked the wall clock, seeing that indeed it was past midnight. He sighed and ran a hand over his professionally styled blonde hair. "You have school tomorrow." Ninth lowered his eyes from the man's face to his impeccable white tux, or whatever variation of fancy formal clothes it was, so he could hide his flat stare. Neither of them had liked the idea of Ninth wasting his time in public school, so having the man feigning being concerned about it wasn't amusing, when was the last time you ate something, father? Gabriel Agresti, world-renowned fashion designer, patriarch of the family Agresti, head of the brand Gabriel, coughed into his fist while avoiding Ninth's eyes. You didn't need to bother, Adrian. Your education is more important. I asked you a question. Ninth cut Gabriel's attempt to change the topic without remorse. When was the last time you ate something, father? He repeated in a flat tone while maintaining a half-lidded stare. The following silence in Gabriel's private office was so thick someone could cut it with a knife. Gabriel sighed. I distinctly remember having an apple for breakfast. Of course. Ninth put the food he prepared for Gabriel on his desk. You can't skip your meals like that. Your work won't go anywhere, so take better care of yourself. At the height of his hypocrisy, Ninth told someone to look after themselves with a straight face. I will try. Gabriel's eyes once more slipped aside, but now he wasn't avoiding Ninth's stare but instead glancing at the portrait on the wall. Ninth kept his gaze away from it. He couldn't, he had no right, to look at it. Get some sleep, you look like you need it. Yes. Gabriel's distant eyes closed in an effort to center himself. You two should head to bed, Adrian. I'm going, good night. Ninth waved over his shoulder and slipped away from the office. Good night, Gabriel muttered to the empty room. His grief-filled green irises went to the plate left for him, then back to the portrait. The picture of the love of his life, the love he lost, looked back at him. He pressed the gates of his heart shut, keeping the flood behind them buried. Gabriel could not let himself feel, not even the gratitude at his son's consideration, or he would break. Doing what he could to refrain from crumbling into a million pieces, Gabriel once more put on a mask of indifference, of control, and went back to his work. Everything would be all right. He would make everything all right. For his family. The smell of fresh food tickled his nose. With another glance at the plate, at the small gesture of care from his son, the man changed his mind. It would be a waste to let the food grow cold, and lack of sleep would only impact his focus. Gabriel consciously ignored his aching heart, saying he would stop only for his son to sleep without worrying. Hadn't you said you would go to bed, my boy? Eighth asked his successor with a soft but childing tone. I'll just finish this set. The boy grunted under the weight of his improvised training equipment, a metal crate filled with cement sacks. Without specialized machinery to push enhancement quirks, Ninth made do with what he had. In this specific case he had 400 kilograms of cement. He squatted while keeping a firm hold of the crate, full cowling at 5% making the exercise mild, but the 100 repetitions made it worthwhile. My boy, you already did enough for today. The golden vestige of the greatest hero his old world would ever see kneeled beside Ninth, features pulled in a slight frown. Get a rest, my boy. I will when I finish. Ninth pretended the reason for his curt answer was thanks to the weight. Both Eighth and he knew better. Kitten, know that I'm coming from a place of care and wisdom when I say, chill. Plag perched himself on Eighth's head, not caring how such a thing should be impossible with the man being an immaterial ghost. The Kwame stared deep into the boy's eyes. You did enough. That right there was Ninth's boiling point. Why does everybody keep saying that? He dropped the crate. The last thread of his self-control was the only reason Ninth caught it before it crashed on the floor and woke every soul in Paris. First Noir, and now you too. Why do you keep saying that? I'm not doing enough, I'm not enough. There's a psychopath out there that has a class 6 power causing havoc and I can barely use enough of one for all to stop one of his minions. Now that the floodgates were open, everything came spilling out, again. It was so hard to keep everything inside, and time again fate made sure Ninth slipped and let his grievances crawl their way out of his mouth like the vermin he constantly and incessantly felt rotting his insides. I barely stopped Shigaraki last time. I barely stopped Hawk Moth last time. I have to stop all for one this time before he can throw the world into a dark age, and people keep saying everything is fine. News flash, it isn't. Nothing is. The world is gonna crash and burn if I don't do anything, so stop saying I did enough when everything is going downhill. Ninth's tirade was stopped by Eighth pulling him into a hug. The boy's voice died, and while Plagg knew letting souls interact with the material plane was against the rules, his kitten needed that, and it wasn't like Plagg cared about the rules. Shaky hands grasped the golden form involving him, All Might. The hero shushed him, "It's okay, my boy. It's okay." Plagg flew down and landed on his kitten's hair, gently patting the boy's head. "You have a lot on your shoulders, kitten." The Kwami knew he was already attached, but dammit, Plagg had a soft spot for rays of sunshine that desperately needed a hug and a break. Not necessarily in that order. "We put a lot on your shoulders, but we only did it because we know that you're enough. You are now and you will be later." He's right. All Might pushed the boy away so he could face him. "When I entrusted One for All to you, I knew then that you had what it took. You proved me right, each and every time, and now is no different. I didn't, I failed. You saved our old world, my boy. You won that bloody war once and for all." Eighth squeezed the boy's shoulders. "You did it. You did what I couldn't. And you'll do it again this time too, kitten." Plagg did not doubt it for a second. Even without having his plan into motion, even without having gone against the old pacts as he did, Plagg had absolute faith in his new chosen. Like Arthur Pendragon, like Siyu Chulain, like Orpheus, like Yoshitsune, and all other mortals that wielded his Miraculous and carved their name in history forevermore, Deku had in him a fire that would never fade. The kid would fight, would struggle, would crawl his way through hell if he needed to. The boy had a need deep in him to make his vision of the world become reality, had a resolve strong enough to see it through, and was crazy enough to not stop even when he really should. Plagg just hoped that the same fire wouldn't burn him, at least not more than it already did. His kittens all deserved better than that. Ninth fought against the burning in his eyes and the knot in his throat. How can you be so sure? He sounded so pathetic with his voice breaking and weak. "Because we have faith in you, my boy." All Might opened one of his signature smiles, wide and bright and promising everything would be alright, "because you are here. Marinette, I swear to me I'll strangle you if you don't drink some water right this instant." Tiki glared down at her chosen like the angry deity she was. The effect, unfortunately, was greatly diminished by the fact she was pocket-sized. "Just let me finish with this button." Marinette had worked on that coat all night, and just when she thought it was ready for delivery, she realized she used the wrong-sized buttons. She had to finish it before going to school or she wouldn't be able to deliver it in time. A cold water bottle was pressed against her cheek, making Marinette flinch. She glared at Tiki, but the Kwami wasn't impressed. "Drink." "Fine." Marinette made sure to stare down the Kwami while opening the bottle, but as soon as the water reached her mouth Marinette realized how parched she was. She downed the whole bottle in one go. "Okay, maybe I didn't notice how thirsty I was. More like how dehydrated. It's been smoking hot lately, you have to be careful or you'll end up passing out." Tiki knew her little bug was hard-working, but working herself into the ground wouldn't do anyone good. "Don't worry, the weather forecast said it would rain today. That would hopefully freshen things up." Marinette rubbed off the sweat pooling on her forehead with her arm and grimaced, even while only in a white tank top and light pink short shorts, and with her fan cranked to the max, she still felt like she was melting. Hadn't it been saying that since last week? Humans have made much progress over the centuries, but accurately predicting something as fickle as the weather still seems a little beyond them. That girl in the forecast looked like she was trying to convince herself just as much as us. Marinette huffed. "Tiki, that girl isn't the one to do the forecast, she's just the one to present it on the news, she studies in my school." "So what? You need years of study to work with that. If I'm not mistaken she won a competition and got the job. A job that consists of looking pretty for the cameras and reading a script, which someone who actually graduated in meteorology gave her." Marinette finished the final button and gave her Kwame a side glance. Blaming her for it being wrong is like blaming me for selling burnt bread when Papa is the one to make them. Tiki rolled her eyes, as if your father would ever do that. Hypothetical scenario. You know what I mean. The voice that answered Marinette wasn't Tiki's, but one she never heard before. You'll have better luck changing the weather yourself than making Sugar Cube stop being a stick in the mud, girly. Marinette yelped and stumbled, ending on her back. She looked all over her room in panic, seeing no one there, but from the wall, a black smudge grew before a Kwame of all things phased into her bedroom. The black floating cat left no doubt of who he was, and who he was partnered with, but left one question. Plag. What are you doing here? Tiki was on him, Plag as his name apparently was, and shaking her counterpart harshly in a blink. You know the rules. No. Yes. Care. No. The little cat god gave Tiki a slip and flew over to Marinette's finished project, preaching himself over the mannequin. Come on Sugar Cube, you have known me since forever. When did I actually respect any form of rule? While Tiki fumed and grumbled, Marinette picked herself up and approached the other Kwame. Hi. Hello there, girly. Fancy meeting you properly. Plag gave a lazy wave. Seeing you from inside my kitten's noggin doesn't really count, in my humble opinion. What part of you is humble? Tiki let the uncharacteristic barb fly before glaring down Plag, who remained unfazed. What do you mean by, inside his head? Marinette heard from Tiki she stayed in a sort of trance inside the Miraculous. While she was transformed. Was it different for Plag? Exactly what I said. Why stay inside a stuffy Miraculous when I have another room with a lot more space and entertainment right there? Plag cackled, as if in a joke only he knew. Plag. Tiki would set the room on fire if she glared any harder. Come on Tiki. Don't be like that, don't you want to hear what I decided to do this time around? Communicate only by whistling again. That was half the reason the Library of Alexandria went up in flames. Plag chuckled at the memory, some arson did well to the soul from time to time. And they burned the Book of the Dead, the real deal not the so-called Necronomicon people came up with, so the rest of the library was an acceptable sacrifice. No, I went with the old sage of the mountain this time around. Let me tell you, there's nothing funnier than giving kids existential dread. You should try one of these days. Tiki's stare was perfectly flat. I'll pass. You shouldn't do that, we already had all that problem with the Sumerians with the whole conscience that has logic thing. Plag facepawed, I knew someone had called us that. Oh well, not like the kitten will realize it, just don't tell him I messed up, I have a reputation to maintain. Hey, I know you two are catching up and are happy to discuss all those things I'm trying really hard to repress, but can I ask what you're doing here, Plag? Marinette hoped to get whatever it was over with so she could pretend she heard nothing and had a perfectly fine and normal morning. The little ball of chaos shrugged, just decided to pass by and say hello. I was already in the area on one of my usual walks so why not? Tiki pulled at her antennae, Plag. You can't go leaving your chosen alone like that. What if an Akuma attacks and you're not with him? Now it was Plag's turn to give her a flat stare. Sugar Cube, did you see my kitten? He would fold an Akuma in half without my help. He did it 2 times already. And yes, his fancy trick left some broken bones, but those build character. Wait, you know what Deku's power is? Marinette had got the list, yes, but she still had no idea how he got them or how they caused so much damage to him. Deku said it was because his body wasn't used to them, but wasn't broken bones a little too much for just that? Yes. Can you tell me? No. Why not? Because. Plag trailed off, then shrugged, nah. He cackled and fell through the mannequin, disappearing into the floor, see you later. Marinette stared dumbfounded at where the Kwame had been a second ago, is he always like this? Tiki patted her cheek, unfortunately. You'll get used to it. I don't know if I want to. Marinette sighed and went to finalize her commission. Looks like I lucked out with which Kwame ended with me at least. And don't you forget it. Tiki laughed good-naturedly, fine with poking some fun at Plag. It wasn't like he would be bothered by it. After that little interruption, Marinette was quick to finish her work. The coat ready, she folded it carefully and put it into a plastic bag. All done. Good, now grab your things and get ready for school. Another unannounced visitor spoke and made Marinette almost jump out of her skin. Mom. Marinette tried to calm her drumming heart, to moderate success. What did I say about knocking before entering? Sabine de Painching heaved herself through the trapdoor into her daughter's room properly, and what did I say about getting ready for school in time? The woman had her blue hair up in a bun and was also wearing a tank top, but unlike her daughter, she had track pants on. Get moving, Moonlight. Her mother's effective nickname for her melted Marinette's irritation. Okay, I'm going. She would take a quick shower before anything. Here was hoping it would truly rain that day. Alya regretted all her life choices that led her to that moment. She was wearing her usual plaid shirt, which at the actual climate of 2 degrees short of the marble of hell, meant she was drowning in her own sweat. And that's because it was supposed to rain. Where's the fresh wind to cool her down? Are you okay? Alya responded to Sabrina with a long-suffering groan. You think one of the heroes has a way to save Paris from the heatwave? I mean, Deku is a Swiss knife of tricks, so maybe. Noir would have to make a fan the size of the city, so I don't think she would be much help. The redhead shrugged, not giving the question much thought. She, unlike Alya, had the foresight to wear a combo of short-sleeved shirt and shorts, giving her skin space to breathe. Speaking of them, what do you think of the record board? Sabrina gave her a side glance. You're making a national crisis into a sport, you know it? Withholding a grimace, Alya nodded. Look, I know it's not the best move, but it's the only one we could make. The record board on the Heroes blog was Alya's idea. While keeping tabs on the dynamic duo's activity, she came up with the concept of a scoreboard with everything the heroes did. Criminal takedowns, all of them Deku's really, rescue operations, crisis response, public pronunciations, mostly Nuas. The heroes had been busy while Hawk Moth bided his time and planned his next move, and by showing everyone that they helped create the notion that the heroes were stronger. Alya wasn't sure, but if everyone believed the only reason Hawk Moth wasn't behind bars was because he was hiding from the heroes like a coward, then fewer people would be afraid of him. Was it working? Yes. Would it bite them in the butt later? Alya hoped not. Before Sabrina could grill Alya some more, Marinette showed up in a short dress plus a shorts get-up. Seemed like everyone was smarter than Alya when it came to what to wear. You okay? Marinette looked over the dripping girl, beside herself with worry for her friend. I'm melting. Why didn't you put on anything lighter? Look, I have a white blouse in my bag. It's 3 sizes too big for me, so it should fit you fine. Alya looked at Marinette as if she was an angel that descended from the heavens to save her from the smoldering hell of her own making. In any other situation I would think you're calling me fat, but I'm way past the point of caring. You're also pocket-sized, so fair. Even while giving her a deadpan, Marinette passed Alya the blouse. You're lucky I care too much for your well-being, or I would leave you to suffer. As if. Chloe's sudden retort made Marinette yelp and stumble, right into Adrien. The boy grabbed her before Marinette's face could get acquainted with the floor. He righted Marinette and put her on her feet, making Marinette blush bright red in embarrassment. Sorry. She trailed off, finally turning and seeing both Adrien and Chloe wearing black tank tops with their usual hoodies tied to their waists. The only difference was that Chloe had on white tights and her work shoes while Adrien had gray track pants and his red high tops. What really made Marinette's brain stutter was how ripped they were. She always knew Chloe was fit like all get out, but like that, you could clearly see her musculature. Chloe could probably break Marinette like a toothpick. And that was not getting into Adrien, his biceps were the size of her head. Feel free to pick your jaw off the floor. Chloe poked some fun at her friend but went and used a finger to lift Marinette's chin, closing her mouth. Adrien elbowed her side, "Stop being mean." Sabrina saved poor Marinette from more embarrassment. "Chloe stole your clothes again." Before Adrien could answer, Chloe cut him off. "Our clothes." No one commented how Adrien seemed to stare at the distance before holding the bridge of his nose and sighing deeply. "Are we adopting communism now?" Alya, who had taken her chance to run to the bathroom and change, got back to see the chaos unfolding. "And I'm out." Adrien left the girls in the hallway and marched to their classroom, being ambushed by Nino on the way. "What was that?" Marinette's only answer was Chloe starting to hum the Soviet anthem. Ninth swore that if First didn't stop humming the Soviet anthem, he would bribe Plag to let him strangle the vestige. Worse than being back to the primordial age of memes, as First liked to put it, was being in said time PRD with a meme lord in his head. "You okay, dude?" Nino gave Ninth another thing to focus on, thankfully. "Just dealing with the heat." And the urge to enact violence against his predecessor. Nino nodded, fanning himself with his cap. "I gotcha. Was seriously considering coming without a shirt today, but I would probably look bad compared to you." To be fair, Nino was already a little self-conscious with his basketball shirt. Beside Adrien, Nino looked like a noodle. "Why? I'm not encouraging you to do it, but there's no reason for you to feel bad about it." Ninth had a different perspective on body form, he knew it. In 200 years, people could look from skinny to fat to a 2-story tall mech to a velociraptor. With that in mind, Ninth couldn't really understand why people came to grips with their appearance. Honestly, Ninth viewed his body as a tool. You didn't care what a hammer looked like as long as it was suited for the job. Nino laughed good-naturedly. "Thanks, dude. But, you know, it would be nice to have guns like that." He mock-jabbed Ninth's arm, to absolutely no effect. "If you want, I could help." Ninth surprised himself with the offer. Contemplating for a moment, he found he meant it. "I could wipe a training and meal plan for you, and there's a place I know where you could work out." "Really?" Nino gave an embarrassed laugh. "I was joking. Things like gyms are expensive, and I know me, by myself I would stop going halfway." Ninth was about to leave the offer open and stop there, but a golden wispy hand on his shoulder stopped him. Eighth gave him a small smile and nodded in Nino's direction. The message was clear, but did Ninth really? A hero reaches out a hand to everyone. Damn it. Ninth really was a hypocrite. "Then what about we go together? I could use a spotter, and you won't be able to skip on it." The way Nino beamed stole a smile from Ninth. "Sure thing, dude. If you needed help, you could have asked." He chuckled but shook his head a moment later. "Thanks, you're a really cool dude, you know that?" Ninth really wasn't. "I'll take your word for it. Now let's go before Chloe starts singing. Her Russian is CRP. Like First's, but Ninth could leave him for Seventh to deal with." Marinette stumbled out of the classroom feeling a second away from turning into a puddle. The heat had only gotten worse through the day and now she was genuinely worried. It wouldn't be a surprise if she found someone passed out on the street from heatstroke. Actually, that was a possibility. Marinette would leave her things at home and go on an early patrol to make sure everybody was hanging on. Knowing Deku, he was probably zipping through Paris already. She just hoped his suit magically protected him from the heat, or all that black would cook him. Marinette was bringing extra water bottles. And maybe some ice cream. Just as she reached the school gates, she passed by a group pushing by a blonde girl while shooting her mean glares. "We sure have a downpour on our hands, huh?" The barb from one of the angry teens made Marinette recognize the blonde from the weather forecast. She approached the girl. "Hey. Aurora, right?" The teenage news anchor had her blonde hair in pigtails and had on a light green mini dress to survive the still rising temperature. Her tired blue eyes went to Marinette's. Yes. Look, it's not my fault the forecast is wrong. Of course not. Your job is to read the script. If the person who wrote it is wrong, that has nothing to do with you. Marinette hoped the difference was clear for everyone, but her optimism only went so far. I can guess some people are giving you grief, but hang in there, okay? They're just cranky because of the heat. When this all blows off they feel silly about it. That got a smile out of Aurora. Thanks, I needed to hear at least one person with common sense. Happy to be that person. Marinette almost puffed up in pride. See? She had the inspire hope thing down pat and wasn't even in costume. That reminded her, I have to go now, but if you want a nice place to relax, the Depainting Bakery is literally across the street. I'll remember that. Aurora raised the umbrella she had in hand. Who knows, it might really start raining and I'll need a place to take shelter. Macaroons and the sound of rain. Sounds like heaven to me. The girls shared a laugh, any previous bad feelings long left behind. It was nice talking to you. Marinette, right? From Mademoiselle Bustier's class. At Marinette's nod, she smiled, nice meeting you properly. See you around. With those parting words, the girls went their separate ways. Marinette walked out of the school building feeling accomplished. She hoped the rest of the day went that well. Hawk Moth waited, observed, searched. He had lost the first battle, but he would win the war. For them, for her. He had to win. It was the only way to save her. A ripple. Faster than eyes could perceive, a black-gloved hand shot out and grabbed a pure white butterfly. Dark magic tainted the wings black. Please, help me make things right. Hawk Moth quietly begged, a whisper lost in a dimly lit room among the wing beats of countless butterflies. He would grovel on his knees if it was what it took to make it all right again. Or burn the whole city down. Whatever it takes. The black butterfly flew away. Aurora felt like she was underwater. What? You can't do that. The news station director gave her a pitying look. I know it doesn't seem fair, but that's how it is in the business, Aurora. Your approval rates drop, you get dropped. He sighed and handed her the document formalizing her getting fired. Look, you're young, you're not even in the age where you should be worrying about jobs. Go back to school, hang out with friends, be a kid. When you do reach the stage of your life where you need to worry about this, you'll have a head start from having experience, which is the hardest thing to get and the one that puts your foot on the door in most cases. Aurora finally managed to find her voice, the shock to her systems being discarded in favor of growing anger, but it's not my fault. My job was to speak to the cameras and pass the forecast your team compiled along. I did that. Why are you firing me for doing exactly what you asked of me? The director tried to put a reassuring hand on her shoulder, but Aurora brushed him off. The man sighed again and shrugged. Your contract is really light and easy to break. That was because if you wanted to stop at any time you could, but also means the station could terminate it with no trouble at any time. When we saw the numbers dropping, it was better for everyone if we did things like this. Sorry kiddo, that's just how things are. Aurora glared at the bunched paper in her hand. So. That's it, at the first sign of trouble you drop me like a hot potato. Are you gonna do the same thing for whoever is gonna get my spot? Yes. The clipped response made Aurora's heart skip a beat. We got a new girl in your age group that's gonna get the role. If she does good then fine, if not she'll be out just like you. Again, look at the positives, you get stuff to put on your resume, and now you gotta have all your free time back. You only won with this. Aurora didn't feel like she won. She only saw the unfairness of it all. Getting replaced for the slightest reason, discarded because of something beyond her control, and knowing whoever came next had the same fate in store. Only realizing she took off running out of the director's office when she got out of the news station building altogether, Aurora crumbled the missive in her hand with a vengeance and threw it away, not caring if she was littering. Aurora hated it. She hated how heartless it all was. She hated how powerless she felt. Her job hadn't paid much, and she had to cancel plans with friends time and again, but that was fine. Aurora liked what she did, she was proud of it, proud of herself, and to have the rug pulled from under her feet for absolutely no justifiable reason made her blood boil. The red haze over her eyes made Aurora miss the black butterfly approaching. The heroes said time and again, if you see a black butterfly approaching you, run, hide, and try your best to calm down. Never would Aurora calm down in that situation, so when the Akuma landed on the tip of her umbrella, it had no trouble pulling her under. Aurora only realized her anger made her commit a mistake when she drowned in it. Hey! Noir landed beside Deku. He was fully clad in black, yes, but didn't look worse for wear. You okay on all that in this heat? Deku, maintaining his gaze down at the streets from his vantage point on top of a chimney, pulled at his hood. Breathable cloth, works wonders combined with high-speed movement. Also, I'm used to being set on fire, this isn't even a distraction. When one of his best friends in his past life could boil a lake with a hand, Deku learned how to work with high temperatures. I don't even know if I want to ask. Then don't. Noir sighed, sure, be like that. At least have this. She passed him a water bottle. Without looking, Deku grabbed it, ripped the top with his teeth, chugged the whole thing down, and threw the trashed bottle in a bin on the ground floor. Admit it, you just did that to show off. Noir wasn't even mad. It was impressive but completely unnecessary. I did that because that way I didn't waste time. Look, I think Hawk Moth is going to strike again today. Noir almost slipped on a tile, thankfully grabbing the chimney her partner was perched on before she could tumble down the side of the building. What? Why? How? An Akuma attack. Because the DMN Heroes blog stoked the fires and some news threw napalm on it. By picking someone affected by the pleasant weather we're having, someone who's angry, annoyed, or just plain unhappy, and turning them into an Akuma. Deku didn't know why people decided to kick the wasp nest by calling out the terrorist who was completely off the grid and could target anyone at any time, but they did. They chose the most stupid course of action and now Deku had to be ready when their Titanic ran straight into the iceberg. Why did people make saving them so hard? Deku's job was already bad enough as it was. Would he be that petty? Noir wasn't defending Hawk Moth in any way, shape, or form, but that seemed a tad excessive. Pettiness has nothing to do with it. Hawk Moth needs to set a precedent, one where no one is safe and he can strike at any time. That way, he really will. Fear was and always will be a source of power, how you HRNSS and use it was the only question. To it, Hawk Moth's best answer would be terrifying Paris as a whole so he could create an Akuma at the drop of a hat. Strike at his power source one too many times and he would be forced to retaliate to keep the fear alive. Noir bit the tip of her thumb's nail. That was bad, very, very bad. Where would he aim? Somewhere populated, high profile, somewhere where the maximum number of people would see the chaos. Which didn't narrow it down as much as Deku would like. Paris was full of landmarks. That meant Hawk Moth was spoiled for choice. It's not like we have any leads on him. Sixth's ghostly form appeared beside Deku, the young hero just shot him a look to show he was listening. If there's no risk, then the logical thing is to go for the maximum reward. Deku nodded, what can everyone in Paris see at any given time? Noir was about to call Deku out on his strange habit of staring at empty space when her eyes widened in realization, TV. What? Before she could stop, Noir pushed herself up the chimney and right onto Deku's face. No matter where he hits, even if he goes for the Eiffel Tower, some people just won't be able to see it. Deku finished her line of thought, but there's a television in every house in Paris. Meaning no matter what, everyone will see it. They completed their deduction together. Glad you two are on the same wavelength, really cute and all, but now is the time to book it to the nearest TV station before SHT hits the fan. First's timely interruption made Deku realize their position. It also made him realize how he had let Noir get that close to him without any resistance. Unfortunately, before Deku could think about what that meant and before they could follow Yoichi's advice, danger sense flared like a storm siren. Inside the crowded Paris news station, pandemonium reigned as Hawk Moth's new weapon rampaged. Strong gusts sent people and furniture flying, carving a path of destruction to the newly possessed Akuma. Now, it seems like we have a sudden arrival of the forecasted stormy weather. The Akuma, stormy weather, had light brownish-gray skin, grayish mulberry-colored lipstick, and brilliant violet eyes. Her hair was two tones with a dark purple base and very pale blue bangs, while her large, pointed, low-angled pigtails were striped with dark purple and very pale blue spirals. On her face, she had jagged black face paint that surrounded her eyes and came down to her cheeks as lightning bolts. She wore a tight, muted color purple and blue two-piece dress that poofed into a curved bell shape around her waist, had small shoulder puffs with a narrow-ended tube-shaped collar, and also featured 5 white lightning bolt patterns that had bright purple outlines. The sleeves became white gloves with 2 of the lightning bolts above her elbows. She wore muted purple tights with white low-heeled knee-high boots that were angled at the opening near the calf, and 2 of the lightning bolts came out of the boots around the outsides of her legs near the knees. The last of the pattern was a sole lightning bolt centered squarely near her abdomen. Her weapon was a closed dark purple parasol that faded to brighter purple at the tip and had a black handle with a double spearhead at the bottom. All in all, after Stoneheart, she didn't look nearly as intimidating, but by the way she spread destruction with her mere presence, there was no doubt that she was just as much a catastrophe in anyone's mind. Come now, where is the star of the show? Come on out, new weather girl, come greet who you'll be replacing. A wave of her umbrella and the whole news set was sent crashing on the walls, along with the crew manning it. Wait! A teenage girl of clear Asian descent ran before stormy weather. I'm here, you don't need to hurt anyone else. See, was it that hard? Stormy weather pulled the other girl closer with a flick of her wrist, commanding the wind to bring her target so she could get a closer look. Now, why don't introduce yourself? I am Mirai Keket. Mirai stuttered, terrified out of her mind. And I'm sorry I took your place, I didn't know dash. Stormy weather put a finger over Mirai's lips, silencing her. Shush now, I'm not mad at you, darling. Why you're not? Oh, but of course not. Stormy weather patted the girl's cheek gently. You have no fault, just like I didn't. But the people running the show don't care about that, they just care about the numbers. Sooner or later, you would get discarded just like me. Stormy weather opened a positively furious smile. Don't worry though, after I'm done with them, they won't step on people for their stupid numbers ever again. What are you gonna do? Mirai was trying her best to keep the Akuma talking. If she held on enough, just enough for the heroes to arrive, then they would be safe. Oh darling, I could tell you all the nasty details, but you know how it is. Business before pleasure, so I'll just wait for the special quests to show up so I can take their Miraculous first. As stormy weather explained her plan, Mirai's heart fell. It was a trap. However, she needed not despair. Heroes faced overwhelming odds to do what was right. With a deafening bang, Deku crashed straight through the ceiling and landed in the center of the studio like a green-black thunderbolt. His eyes zeroed into stormy weather. Before the Akuma could say or do anything, the hero snapped his arm up and aimed with his wrist-mounted cannon, fingers ready to flick. Delaware smash, Air Force. Masses of compressed air shot out at Mach speed, only to stop midway. Stormy weather huffed, is that the best you got? She waved her parasol, and the air bullets were shot back. Deku dodged them with minimal effort, leaning away from most shots and jumping over the last. Stormy weather had him in his sights, just as planned. While the Akuma was distracted, a yo-yo lassoed Mirai, pulling her away from the line of fire. The new weather girl was caught by a concerned Noir and brought away from the ongoing battle. The heroine dropped her with the rest of the TV crew, all bunking down behind a barricade formed from the strew machinery. Noir checked the girl. "You okay? Did the Akuma hurt you?" "And no, but you guys have to run. It's a trap, she used us as bait." "We know." Mirai did a double take. "What?" "Look, Deku's paranoia pays off from time to time. What's important is that you guys are safe." Noir stood up and looked over the barricade, seeing Deku bouncing around like a demented pinball while a progressively angrier Stormy Weather tried, and failed, to shoot him down. "Stay that way, we'll handle it." "How?" "I'm still figuring out that part." Deku used Black Whip to launch pieces of furniture and TV equipment at the Akuma, to minimal results. Her aerokinesis was strong and precise enough to redirect most projectiles, and with his sketchy control of Black Whip Deku didn't want to try a focus point. That left him with one avenue of attack. With a sharp turn midair with a quick application of float, Deku changed trajectory enough to get to Stormy Weather's blind spot. Before the Akuma could react, a 25% powered kick landed on the middle of her back. The strike sent the Akuma flying, but she had the time to give Deku a nasty surprise. Wind blades lashed against his feet at the moment of impact, sending sparks flying from where his greaves were struck. They at least protected his feet, but Deku was still rendered off balance. Stormy Weather recovered fast enough to capitalize. A ball of compressed air the size of a basketball crashed on the hero's rashly raised block, his arm only softening the blow somewhat. Deku's grunt of pain was drowned by the sound of the mass of air expanding and sending him ceasing through tables and monitors. Deku cursed, he wasn't fast enough to react to Danger Sense's warning. That was the most glaring weakness of Fourth's quirk, it was only a warning, and responding to it was completely up to him. The hero burst from the pile of set equipment, going wide and launching whatever he could grab at the Akuma. Stormy Weather for her part only flicked her umbrella and sent it all back. Not for a moment she realized her back was to the group of hiding civilians. And Noir. She only noticed something was wrong when a chair was smashed on her back. Stormy Weather all but flew forward with the impact, but Noir couldn't take advantage of the opening. Both hurting someone like that and almost breaking her wrist with her stunt left Noir reeling. Deku had no such troubles. He threw himself at the downed Akuma with a twist, leg winded back and glowing with a high charge of green-black lightning. Smash! A loud boom sounded, almost deafening the people on the TV set. The hero skidded back with a grimace, eyes fixed on the wind wall that blocked his blow. The air currents were spinning around Stormy Weather so fast that even at 25% he wasn't able to break through. "I think we're done with the opening show, huh?" Stormy Weather twisted the air around her into a blade, the sharp wind letting out a shrill shriek. She pointed her weapon forward, and Deku tensed, then she smirked. Deku felt the world slowing down. Stormy Weather waved her umbrella, at Noir. One for All roared at 40% of its might. The blade started to move. A ripple of FANFICTION flashed brilliant red. Noir froze, eyes widened at the screaming death coming closer. Gearshift slotted itself into overdrive. Deku pushed Noir out of the way from the wind blade. BLD flew out in scarlet blooms. Noir hit the ground with a start. She looked back with wide and tearful eyes. The scene she saw would forever be present in her nightmares. Deku stood slightly hunched, gritting his teeth harshly. His left arm hung limply, a stream of red flowing down from his shoulder where a painfully bloody gash was. He took a deep breath, filling his lungs again after the short burst of gearshift at max potency, and grinned. He did it. Stormy Weather huffed, "Why are you smiling? Didn't you see?" Deku's lips parted more, showing pointed fangs. "I won." He could get to the top of the titanical mountain that was his power. He could do it when it counted. Deku would, win. Because that's what heroes do. Right, Kaken? His muttered words in Japanese were lost in the buzz of full Cowling's lightning. Even down one arm, Deku got ready to fight. He made do with less. 3 functioning limbs were a luxury during most of his battles. Against a puppet with some mild weather manipulation, Deku wouldn't lose in a million years. That confidence enraged Stormy Weather to no end. Let's see what a stray with a broken pawn can do against this. She pointed her umbrella up at the skylight Deku created with his entrance. A lightning bolt fell on the tip of her weapon. Deku knew where that was going, so he got ahead of it. Using Black Whip to make a cast was currently beyond him, so Deku made do with a crude splint of black tendrils that covered his bleeding shoulder and stuck his left arm against his side. That done, Deku leaped and twisted, lashing out with a violent kick, Texas Smash. Stormy Weather sent a stream of lightning at the hero, only for a wall of displaced air to intercept it. Wind was an insulator, so her attack quickly lost the exchange. The Akuma leaped over the wind attack instead of redirecting it. She opened her umbrella, and surprisingly took flight. Come on, stray cat. Seeing his enemy retreating through the hole he created, Deku gritted his teeth and was about to give chase. Only for Noir to grab his unbroken hand. Stop. You're hurt and bleeding and dash. Focus. Deku felt bad snapping at his partner, but he had to get Noir's head straight. I stopped the bleeding and am holding everything in place with Black Whip. Stormy Weather won't have anyone to use as a hostage, but she'll be able to use all her power. Noir grimaced and bit her lower lip in worry. Stormy Weather could control the weather, and now she was outdoors with the whole sky to bring down on their heads. Hey, none of that now. Deku, even down an arm, still had it in him to chuckle and lightly chop Noir on the head. We're winning, just have to bring the gold home now. Noir held her head and looked at Deku. Truly looked at him. Dang it. If he could stand up tall even while down an arm, could be inspiring even while hurt, then she had to do it too. She had to. I'll go ahead. No. Don't argue, I have an idea. Noir heard Deku's teeth clicking shut. I'll distract her to get you a clear shot. When you see it, take it. Deku nodded slowly. That's risky, but it can work. Be careful, and when I say, get clear. He stressed the final words, and Noir felt a shiver at his tone. What are you gonna do, Dash? Her question was interrupted by a loud thunderclap coming from outside. No time. Let's go. Noir's heart drummed in her chest. Deku was right, the time to talk was over. She threw her yo-yo up, and it latched into something, she didn't even know what, but it was sturdy enough for Noir to pull herself up and out the improvised skylight Deku created. The moment she reached the rooftop, all hell broke loose. Noir thanked Deku again for literally beating into her how to dodge. Before her foot touched the floor, Noir was already ducking, which saved her from another vacuum bomb. Not looking at the damage it did, she threw herself forward. Masses of compressed air rained down on her, but Noir was used to it. Deku didn't hold back on their spares, not as much as Noir would like, which meant he flicked concrete-destroying Delaware smashes at her on the regular. Mildly cursing Deku's naming sense, hawk moth, and her own luck, Noir weaved from place to place while doing her best not to get hit. She hopped over an AC unit, ducked behind an antenna, sprinted through a Ballard's frame, and just all around ran with all she had. Stormy Weather tried again and again to hit her mark, to no avail. Stop jumping all over the place, you annoying bug. Stop shooting air bullets at me then. Fine. Stormy Weather crossed her umbrella, falling back to the ground. With her full focus, she channeled lightning again. Noir's face fell. No good, she needed. Come on, Lucky Charm. Praying to her Kwame with all her heart, she almost felt like crying in relief when a lightning rod landed on her hand. Quickly forming a plan, she ran closer to the ACs again. Let's see if you can outrun lightning. Stormy Weather pointed her weapon forward, sure it would hit Noir. Imagine her surprise when her attack landed instead on a lightning rod stuck to an AC unit close to her. It was close enough to attract the electricity as the path of least resistance, and grounded to boot. Gritting her teeth, Stormy Weather shouted, "Enough. I'm tired of this waste of time. I'm gonna squash you like the bug you are." Noir saw Deku sneaking close from the corner of her eye. He was almost to the Akuma's back. She only had to buy him a little more time. Calling me a bug again and again is really unoriginal, you know. Provoking Stormy Weather was a bad idea. When she pointed her umbrella up, the lightning that rained down on it was then condensed into a sphere that grew at each second that passed. Deku saw the ball lightning forming and cursed. He bolted ahead, abandoning the plan in any hope of stealth and a clean takedown. "Get clear." His yell got the Akuma's attention, just as he wanted. Trusting Noir to heed his warning, Deku went on the offensive. With his next step, Deku swung his foot with enough strength for it to sink into the TV station's rooftop. Hooking it into some rebar, he kicked up. A chunk of concrete was flipped at Stormy Weather, the wide-eyed Akuma yelping in fright. She redirected some of the power she was charging to strike the flying boulder flying at her, causing it to burst into a cloud of dust and metal shrapnel. Deku used it as a cover, not bothering with some cuts and a face full of grime. With it, he was close enough. It was ironic, how he was basically reproducing the trick that won him his first ever hero course class, back when everything had been simple. Back when he felt he had a name. The same trick that earned him a victory, some earfuls, and a lot of broken bones. Well, he was no stranger to finishing a fight with his arms turning into meat noodles. Focus. The power, the energy. Give it a straight path to flow down, limit the area, let it flood every single cell. Deku roared alongside his power. Green almost overtook black as a coat of lightning covered his right arm, 1,000,000 times more powerful than the ball lightning Stormy Weather had over her head. Lunging forward, he saw in her eyes how the Akuma expected to be atomized at that moment, which almost made Deku grin. He contented himself with shouting from the bottom of his heart. "Detroit Smash!" Deku launched his fist skyward. And Paris, France, and the whole world witnessed the full might of One for All. The sphere of lightning was torn asunder by the overwhelming force that went through it, along with the displaced tunnel of air that followed. The vacuum being filled was like several tons of dynamite going off, the boom shaking the very earth. Up above, a clear ring formed on the clouds kilometers away. Back on the ground, at the epicenter of the cataclysmic event, Deku stood with his arm raised. Not for long, as his powdered bones couldn't sustain it as such. Letting his hand fall, the gauntlet at least keeping things more or less in place, the hero sighed. That hurt like hell. At least it got the job done. He stopped Stormy Weather's Hail Mary and took down the Akuma at that. The pressure had been enough to send the Akuma flying, away from her weapon, and right into the side of the rooftop entrance. Deku looked around while using Black Whip to hold both his arms in place, searching for the umbrella hawk moth used to trap his newest victim. He didn't have to search for long, as Noir approached him with it in hand a moment later. Her face was ashen, hands trembling. Noir looked a moment away from a panic attack, or a heart one. What was that? That's what I can do with 100% of my stockpile power. A shame my bones turn into confetti when I use it. A shame indeed. Maybe he wouldn't be here if he had been able to use everything at his disposal the first time around. He would need to rectify that on his second go. Anyway, priorities. Break that and do your magic, I'll check on her. Wait, but your dash, Noir swallowed it down. She could fix it. She had to fix it. She had to. Deku got closer to the down Stormy Weather just as Noir snapped the umbrella over her knee. Seeing Aurora Boreal from the other class, as well as the Weather Girl, and most of all just a teen, slowly blinking her eyes open, only for them to widen in shock and fear made Deku tired to what was left of his bones. Why couldn't kids be kids? Why did the world have to be cruel to the only ones who still thought it was a good place? Hey, you okay? I didn't, I'm so sorry. It wasn't your fault. Deku stared Aurora right in the eyes, practically pinning her in place. It wasn't. Everything that happened here is on Hawk Moth. All of it. But Deku didn't even let her finish. You didn't hurt anyone. She looked at his arms, both dripping red and hanging uselessly. He smiled slightly. I did this to myself. The other girl couldn't even scratch me. What about your shoulder? Okay, maybe one scratch. He huffed but ended up smiling when Aurora actually cracked and chuckled at his sass. Noir will fix me right up, and if she doesn't then I have my ways. He didn't, but she doesn't need to know that. Let's get you back inside and dash. A drop fell on the tip of his nose. Deku looked up, and saw the sky closed and darkening. Oh, he pulled an all might. A distant part of him geeked at doing the same feat his idol did back in the day they met. A more prominent part chuckled, seems like the forecast was right after all. Marinette watched, numbly staring as paramedics checked over Aurora. The buzz of the heavy rain was white noise, filling her ears all the way to her brain. From her pitiful refuge under a shop's front, covered by a balcony that left her dry in the worsening downpour. Her eyes followed as Mirai approached Aurora, both striking up a conversation while being passed shock blankets. Their spirits lifted as they talked until both girls were smiling. Smiling. Could Marinette do that? Could she move the dead mask that was her face to express anything at that moment? No, she couldn't. Deku changed the weather with a punch. The bar was so high up it could be on another planet, and here she was. Weak, clumsy, useless Marinette. Deku means useless. My Deku means, you can do it. His voice echoed through the emptiness in her head. Dang it, she couldn't be feeling sorry for herself while her partner broke his whole arm to save the day. That was also a thing. Would he always get hurt? Would she always be so weak that he had to break himself to make up for it? Maybe. But even then, she could fix it. She could fix him. As many times as it took. Noir was the creator goddess that repaired the world pillar, that was the name Marinette chose, that was who she needed, to be. Destruction and creation. The cat and the ladybug. If that was her role, if she had to make things right after the dust settled, then she would do it. She had to. Marinette had to be better. For her partner, her city, and everyone that this war would hurt. She had to. Hey. Adrian's calm greeting almost made Marinette die with the scare it gave her. That broke her out of the numbness. Glancing at him, she saw he had his hoodie closed with the hood up, the water flowing down like from a duck's back. Hydrophobic cloth. Her inner designer marveled at it, but she didn't feel like asking where he got it. Hi. They're all okay. As much as someone could be after an Akuma attack. Adrian nodded, the conversation taking a lull. The silence wasn't awkward, the rainfall making it rather peaceful. Marinette still felt the urge to ask, "What are you doing here?" Was in the area. Heard the commotion and came to see if anyone needed help. He didn't ask what Marinette was doing there. She was glad he didn't, there was no way she could tell the truth and Marinette hadn't in herself to lie at that moment. You sound like a hero. Adrian chuckled, it was a small and reserved thing. Marinette couldn't say he ever heard it before. The essence of being a hero is basically being a good person. He huffed, I'm not. That's a lie. These two people who could be only called acquaintances, tangential friends at best, stood side by side at the site of a magical terrorist attack, taking shelter from the rain and having a heart-to-heart. Maybe the absurdity of it all was what gave Marinette the confidence to say it. Maybe she was just too tired to care for things like tact. You are a good person. You can't see it, but that doesn't change the fact you are. The rain eased up some, but it would still keep going for a long while by the pace of things. They hadn't looked at each other since they started talking, but Marinette didn't need to see Adrian's face to know the expression he was making. That doesn't change the fact I don't feel like one. Does helping someone else automatically make you good? Does the reason why you do it change anything? His face was blank, just like Marinette's. What's your reason? He fell silent for a moment. Then finally, I want to change the future. For the better? Yes. Then that's good. Another quiet moment. Then, Marinette heard something. The sound felt alien to her at first, but it grew louder until she figured out what it was. That realization shook her to her very core. Slowly facing Adrian, Marinette saw something she had never seen before. He was laughing, head bowed, shoulders shaking, honest to every quality laughing. She liked the sound of it. Adrian raised his head, looking up at the closed sky. Sometimes, it's that simple, huh? He glanced at her, opening a heartfelt smile. Thank you. What, why? For being my hero. Marinette felt her heart squeezing in her chest. I'm no hero. She let her head fall, her body shivering in the cold. Yes, you are. I didn't do anything. Yes, you did. What? A great man once said, the greatest mark of a hero is inspiring other people. He told me that. He told me that when he called me his hero. A flutter of fabric and a green hoodie covered Marinette. Her eyes widened, the fabric protecting her from the wind and rain, the warmth in it driving the chill that permeated her bones away. Marinette slowly looked up and felt her breath stolen. Adrian, giving her that honest smile, eyes closed, happy. I'm telling you this now because you did the same for me. Thank you for being my hero, Marinette. With those words and nothing more, he walked away. Not bothering with the rain still falling, he walked, a step at a time. Adrian, for the first time since she met him, seemed at peace. The kind words. The kind gesture. The warmth that engulfed her. It was too much. Her heartbeat was almost painful. Her cheeks felt hot. Marinette blinked. Oh, she fell for him. So alright folks, that's all for today. Stay tuned for more crossovers. Do subscribe, like and share for more such videos. Also check out the story and author Bola 8 on FANFICTIONnet. Press the bell icon to be notified first on release. See you in the next video. Till then, goodbye.